Welcome to the March meeting of the Greencastle Common Council. If we could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, welcome everyone this evening. Linda, can you call the roll, please?
Councilor Mark Hammer. Councilor Russell Harvey.
Present.
Councilor Stacy Langdon.
Here.
Councilor Veronica Pedro.
Here.
Councilor Cody Eckert.
Here.
Councilor Dave Murray.
Here.
And Councilor Darrell Thomas.
Here.
Our first item of business is public petitions and comments. If anyone is here that would like to speak on a subject that's not already on the agenda, please come forward. And we have a person from the Sigma Alpha Epsilon House. If you could come up with your special event street closure request.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jack Nisley. I am a senior here at DePaul University. I am the current president of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity on our campus, and basically what I'm asking for is a street closure request for South Locust Street between East Hannah and Elm Street. It's that one block that holds the Sigma Alpha Epsilon House, the Kappa Kappa Gamma House, and the Alpha Phi House between the hours of 3 p.m. and 9 p.m. on April 14th. The purpose for this is we are starting up what we're calling Lucy Patty Week. Lucy Patty is the only female SE initiate in the history of our fraternity, and we're doing a philanthropy week in her name with all of the proceeds going to benefit the homeless shelter here in Greencastle. Our plan for that sort of 6-hour block, I think is what it ends up being, is to do a block party. Basically what we want to have happen is we want to bring a bunch of food trucks in. So we've already been talking to Wally's down in Greencastle to bring a food truck in. We're working on finding 2 others. We're working on bringing a dunk tank in. Our house is going to run a dunk tank and a cornhole tournament. Kappa Kappa Gamma has also decided to join us for this event, and they're going to run their own philanthropy event. And then I'm talking with Alpha Phi next week to run their philanthropy event. So basically we want to have this whole event open to DePaul's campus, Greencastle community, and the Putnam County community at large to raise money for the Greencastle homeless shelter, right? I'm saying sort of 3 to 9 p.m. here. So from 3 to 4, we can do setup. We can set up a dunk tank. We can bring the food trucks in. We can set up a live band. We have 3 live bands on DePaul's campus who I'm working with to try to get some live music in. And then from 4 to 8, we'd run the entire event. Do philanthropy, do food trucks and dunk tank and cornhole and whatever the other houses decide to do with us. And then from 8 to 9, it's sort of that time for people to kind of trickle their way out. We can move the food trucks out of there. We can have the dunk tank people come pick the dunk tank back up, clean up all of that area, so then that street is totally clear by 9 p.m. for normal traffic.
So I have to ask, how does one woman become a member of SAE in the history of the fraternity?
So Lucy Patty lived down by the Virginia Military Institute, and around the time of the Civil War, all of those SAE members started getting drafted into various state militias, right? Whether it was up north, down south, they were kind of getting drafted into their militias, and she was a friend of the house. Her brother actually ended up becoming an SAE as well. And ultimately, the last SAE member who was there gave her all of the records for the house, for that chapter, and a lot of our national records ended up residing down there as well, and said, please keep these safe for the duration of the war. Do not give them to anybody unless they give you the grip. So our, secret handshake, basically. The war ends, years pass, and a group of VMI students show up at her front door and say, hey, you have our records, we need them back. She says, okay, cool, give me the grip. They say, absolutely not. We're not giving you the grip. You're a woman. You can't be a member of our fraternity, anything like that. She defends these records at gunpoint until somebody gets the bright idea, hey, might as well just go and give her the grip. They give her the grip. She's like, okay, cool. Hands the records right over. So then she was enshrined as our only female initiate in history.
I'm really glad I asked.
The only comment I have is I would ask you to check with the school district because of Ridpath School in that neighborhood to make sure that closing the street at 3 o'clock doesn't interfere with the bus traffic to serve the school. You might have to delay it maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
No worries.
Normally the buses should be there
They're,
by about 2:45, 2:30, so it might not be a problem. But
and I mean, just living right there, in our experience,
Yeah.
they're usually there 2:45 or 2:30, and then they take that that back road right behind all the houses. But I'll make sure to double check in with them.
Okay, that'd be great. Any other?
So is it rain or shine?
Hopefully shine. I think if it would rain, I would try to move it to the next day. It's April, so obviously that's a little variable, but around this time of year, it's around that beginning part of April, it's usually pretty dry, so that's what we're hoping for.
I think it's great, and you're going to donate the proceeds to the community. I think that's fantastic. I'll make a motion that we approve the street closure as requested.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the street closure. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Typical condition is, it sounds like you're already working with the neighbors, and then, if it gets too loud, if the Paw Security asks you to tone it down, it's up
Absolutely.
to them, because it's not past our normal
Yep.
noise hours, so you're
still.
good to go.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you,
any
Jack.
other public petitions or comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to those that arrived a little earlier. We have street closure requests for the DePaul Little Five. Is Caitlin Franks here? Welcome. Please come forward.
Hi, so as mentioned, my name is Caitlin Franks, and I'm requesting street closure for our annual Little Five races. I'm listed here twice because we have 2 days of races. The first day is the street sprints, and that normally takes place on Anderson Street between South Locust and Bloomington. The event would be from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., but I'm asking for 4 p.m. to start setup for an hour, and then 7:30 to pick up. We'll do a pretty quick pickup. We're having representatives from each chapter kind of help us with that so that we can get the fences and gates set up for the next day, which is the Criterium race, and that's the second street closure that I requested. A little bit bigger, a little bit more time. That would entail South Locust, so it's the Criterium race is a square of blocks. So it starts on in East Hannah, it goes down to South Indiana, up East Olive, and then back to South Locust, and so it kind of makes that wrap around Bowman Park at DePaul and
The GCPA.
the GCPA, things like that, yeah. And so that would be from 11 a.m. to 3:30 would be the race times. There are 3 races, alumni, women, and men's. But we would start, again, an hour early and then probably need the hour for setup. So I have 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. for that day. And then that day does include a rain check. The first race doesn't, but the Criterium race, if it does rain, we would have it take place the Saturday. Or the Sunday. I realized I didn't say the dates. The first race would take place on April 21st, and then the second race would be April 22nd, and then if it rains, April 23rd.
Questions?
I move that both requests be approved.
I'll second.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
Veronica.
Veronica? Okay. I would just ask as mayor that in previous years, sometimes the hay bales have gotten away,
Yes.
and if at the end of the race, they're stacked and not left in the street.
Yeah.
Or picked up or just taken care of, because we've had to make some phone calls in the past.
Yeah.
So if somebody could be part of that committee and take good care of it, that'd be great. So
Absolutely.
we have a motion and a second to approve the request. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, you're
Thank you.
good to go. Our city attorney isn't here tonight.
Okay.
She may want you to provide a certificate of insurance
Okay.
because of the nature of this event, so I'll ask her to follow up with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mike Richmond from Putnam Parks and Pathways. Mike?
Good evening, everybody. So we are bringing back Pedal Putnam. It was a cycling event that happened in 2021 through the Visitor Center, and this year it's going to be happening through Putnam Parks and Pathways. Seth has really been the one that's been leading this charge. I'm just kind of representing the CVB and Putnam Parks and Pathways. The reason why we're here, in 2021 when we did it, we hosted the start-finish line at Big Walnut Sports Park. This year, we're trying to bring it down to downtown and host the start-finish line and kind of include a block party to spruce up the event. So you can see here we are requesting South Indiana Street from Washington to Walnut, and then also that portion of East Walnut Street as kind of a start and stop line from Jackson to Indiana, so that kind of L shape. And then 7 to 4 gives us about an hour on each side to get everything cleaned up and put away. So it'll be a cycling event with some food vendors and live music as kind of a block party afterwards for awards and the ceremony. And then if you have questions, I'm going to turn it over to Seth, or if you have anything else you want to add.
I just wanted to add to state the vision is to draw Petal Putnam into the fabric that we already have in place for First Friday. So it could be that somebody could travel to Greencastle or to Putnam County for the weekend. They could attend First Friday and get to have a nice festival time hanging out, and then be able to stay in town at some of our local hospitality services, and then be able to stay for the bike race in the morning. If you go travel for a bike race, you might not want to drive, get up super early to go exert yourself all morning. So it's really to kind of tap into some of the fabric that we already have in place, and then kind of keep some of that going as well. As part of the idea behind the street closure on Indiana Street, is that it would be the same street closure as First Fridays. So it'd be the same timing in place with that. I know Mike and I had already talked, like we won't be able to leave that closed overnight, which I understand. But yeah, just to have it closed in the morning, we'll do registration and pickup on that Saturday morning, and then I think the East Walnut closure is really just there for participant safety, to make sure that we can have a safe start finish when we get everybody rolling. I've also reached out to the Sheriff's Department and to the Police Department about having marshals there to be able to ensure a safe start when you have an en-masse participation cycling event. It's really good to kind of just be able to slow things down for everybody until you get to a spot where the riders are going to separate a little bit, and they are good to go. We're on their calendar for that day to have off-duty officers to be helping for those events, and
With DePaul already?
yes, approved by DePaul, and we're in the process of getting additional parking from DePaul as well for the event. In 2021, Marco Leary, whom you might know from the Dust Bowl stuff in past, I think he was here last month, if I heard right. Marco Leary ran the event in 2021. They had 130 participants come out, and I think that it'd be really easy to end up with about the same number this spring as well. So, but I'd be happy to field any questions that this might bring.
Have you had an opportunity to speak with our fire chief?
I have not yet.
Given that the streets are immediately adjacent to the fire department and could be an egress matter, I recognize that they're closed for First Friday, but this is 2 days in a row, with being on the 6th. At least some notice and checking in would
Absolutely.
And we can ensure the setup leaves a fire lane also,
okay.
just in case of an emergency.
Chief Burgess is here tonight if you need to talk to him for any reason.
Sorry, I got my readers on them.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion?
I so move.
Second that. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve both this street closure. Is that for both, Darrell, and the noise ordinance? This is kind of a different noise ordinance. This is an early morning one as opposed to late in the evening. Is that correct?
I just submitted it because we're going to have anytime we have live music in a public place.
Okay.
I just feel like I need to submit one. But
Okay. Any other further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
And is there going to be alcohol involved?
I have been discussing with Moores,
Okay,
but it's not.
If that transpires, you'll need to come back and work out some additional details with our city attorney.
Okay, great.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
okay?
okay. Yeah, all the insurance will be going through Putnam Parks and Pathways.
Okay, sounds
We'll
good.
get it with her. Okay. Thank you.
Next item of business is the public hearing on Heartland Automotive Tax Abatement. Kristen, I know, is here somewhere.
That's most of what we...
Good evening. So I sent out packets to you guys, so you should be familiar with this. I just want to draw your attention that we have changed just a couple of minor things. I have asked Ritsuko, Director of Operations, and she is with us this evening back there, so if you have any questions for the company, she'd be happy to share it. But the last 2 pages of your packet, that's going to show you where the employment numbers are. On the SB1, it says 330. Down here, total says 333, so you see those employment numbers are fluid. They're not as high as they've been in the past. However, they would love to take another 40, 50, 60 people if we could find them. So, but that is what they currently are at, and that's kind of why they're getting in this new line. They're trying to continue to improve their automation. And then the very last one is just a little more reference on some of the donations that they've made both to the city and to various entities that, so I shared with you the third to last page of what they've done, and then there's just a little more confirmation on it on the very last page. So you guys always ask for that just because you want to make sure that that they are not just a good corporation and employing our people, but also contributing to our community. And so obviously Heartland is very adept at doing that.
Chris,
So,
go over that again,
okay.
slowly.
Okay. We, City Council always asks for those numbers. One, they'd like to see where the employment numbers are coming from. And then also they want to see that not only are they employing good people, but they're also a good member of our community, and so that they're engaging in activities that we have around the community. So,
Go to the last page here.
The last page.
yeah.
Second only 20 pages.
But the last one, it just shows where there's been some contributions made to the city. And then the second to last one is the employment numbers of 333 and the zip codes and the locations of where those people are coming from. So you'll see that 191 of the 333 is coming from Putnam, 54 is coming from Clay, 16 is coming from Hendricks, Montgomery has 15, and then other ones are 57. And then the one right before that is really, so the Heartland 30th anniversary, City of Greencastle for tennis courts renovation to Roban Park, 24,000 contribution to City for People's Pathways. So they've invested in the community along the way. So that was what I was trying to share with you. There's just a lot of good information along the way right here. What we didn't have last time was their current salaries being paid for those 330, and that's $13,704,000. You're going to find that on the SB1. So that's about 4 pages in. So that's just one of those gaps that we're trying to fill out for you guys. And then if you go 2 more pages down, you're going to see that I've created a sheet right here, which is going to be the tax savings sheet. So total taxes over 10 years, if they did not do abatement, on the amount that they're claiming of $4.066 million, it would be $451,000. The taxes over 10 years with the abatement would be $181,000. That's a tax savings of $269,000, almost $270,000. But then if you'll go one more behind that, you're going to see exactly what they've paid in the last 25 years with their taxes. So they've contributed a healthy amount in taxes to our community. So over $14 million in taxes. So those are just some of the highlights, and that's for some of you new members who have not done this before. So how this works is At our last meeting, Heartland came before us, we presented the project, they're adding a new line, and the reason is they're doing away with one of their automobile car lines, and they're adding a new SUV Crosstrek line. And so that requires them to add a whole new manufacturing line and train their people, and so that's what they're getting ready to cross over and do. And so they're requesting abatement on that line. So last time, we approved the declaratory resolution, and now we're asking you to confirm the confirmatory resolution later in the meeting. But right now, it's time for anybody who, if you have any questions for us, or if the public wants to comment on it.
Questions from council?
So Kristen, 2023, 30th anniversary, 200,000, that's coming this year?
Okay, so I'm sorry, I think I have misspoke. I think that was in 2020. The 2023 is just to this point. This is the year of the
Got
project.
excited, Kristen.
Yeah, the
I thought
30th
we were getting
anniversary.
200,000.
No, the 30th anniversary
That's
happened about 3 or 4
cumulative.
years ago. It's in the past. All these are mostly in the past, and that's why we included the very last page, because that's where she got a little more specific about that. So, yeah. Okay. Very good.
Just to build on your point about their being supportive of the community, correct me if I'm wrong, but Heartland gave us $100,000 to build the tennis courts and the pickleball courts. That's a significant investment that we appreciate, and there's a plaque down there, so if you're out there playing, please take notice.
And that's the number on the last page for 2017.
That's
So,
correct.
yeah.
Right. So the number on the second to last page is the accumulation, and then the detail is on the very last page. That's correct. Didn't mean to confuse you. Sometimes more information gets a little confusing, so that's correct. Okay, I'll see you again for the...
This is a public hearing. If there's any member of the public that would like to speak, this is your opportunity to do so.
I'll move that the public hearing be closed.
Second. We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. Next, our department head reports. We have several of our department heads here. If anybody has any questions for folks.
I'd like to ask Chris Jones, our police chief, to come forward.
Chris, if you'd come up, please.
Want to recognize Chris's 20 years of service to the city. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, no problem.
We talked a little bit earlier, we got new police cars coming in, and I'm always worried about getting rid of the old ones, and he tells me we're going to get rid of those Chargers sooner or later here. So, thank you. It feels like we're building a car lot down there at the police station.
Actually, after having 2 accidents, we're glad we had a couple extras because we were out of cars, literally. So,
For sure.
Seriously, thank you for your service. I just wanted to recognize that with the public.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Chris, I wasn't going to call you up here for this, but since you're right there, I saw that Ed Wilson gave field sobriety test training this month. My only question is, did everybody pass?
Yes. Yep, they're certified. Good to go.
And the department party is when?
And while we've got you up here, I want to thank you again for joining our Human Relations Board to have a conversation with us about community engagement. And it was a great conversation, and we look forward to having more to come. So thank you so much for joining us.
all right, great. Thank you, Chris. Anybody else?
Jason? I always read your report with very much morbid interest.
Jason's in charge of our cemetery.
This month caught me, I started laughing, I couldn't stop.
Okay.
What are we renting at the cemetery?
Oh, we're not renting, we have a rental house
Oh,
that's being
okay.
rented out.
Okay. Well, I kind of had all sorts of dreams as to what we might be renting
Yes.
at the cemetery.
So the White House that is just north of the office building is a rental house that the cemetery
Okay,
has.
did not know that.
We rent it every month. We've had a tenant in there since 2000, We've had the same tenant there, I think, since 2017.
Okay.
He pays the rent on time. He's very good. He does all the maintenance of the house himself. So he's pretty good for us.
Okay. That's a far better answer than I had in mind.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to just call Greg up for a minute. Greg, can you just report on how we're doing with lifeguards and staffing for the Spark program? He's got some exciting things to share.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor. We have 24 lifeguards that are in the process of being hired. Several of them went through some of the paperwork aspects of becoming lifeguards. We have about 50% of the lifeguards that we had last year returning, which is a great sign of the leadership that we have in place at the Aquatic Center. We have a Spark director. We haven't had the Spark program in 3 years. We have a Spark director. We have an assistant director, and we have 8 team leaders, which is the number that we would like. Here we are, not quite to the middle of March, and we are well on our way to having a spectacular summer. And if Mother Nature cooperates, it's going to be fantastic.
Greg, could you mention the change of hours on the swimming and adult swim and swim lessons?
You're putting me. The exciting thing I can tell you is that we're going to be open 7 days a week, and that's absolutely critical because we didn't have the staff to do it last year. But the schedule itself has been modified as a result of the 7-day work week, and I'd be happy to provide that information to you. We're starting to put together the information that we can market to the public so that everybody knows when their swim lessons take part, whether it's the youth or whether it's adults, and we're in the process of putting that information together right now.
I don't remember off the top of my head the exact hours, but we're going to run one swim lesson in the morning in part of the summer and then one in the evening. So if mom or dad want to have the kids in for swimming and they're working, they have an evening option, and then a morning adult swim and an evening adult swim opposite the swim lessons. So trying something to make the swimming lessons a little more available to the public, and when the hours are finalized, it'll be on the posters and things that will be out for the public.
And that's due in large part because we have 24 lifeguards, and we will consider hiring 2 or 3 extras in the event. Well, we will have lifeguards going on vacations and things like that, but we should be fully staffed the entire summer.
Greg, one of the things that is a source of some frustration, and it's understandable, the school's open in early August, and we have to shut down. Is there any chance, given the size of that staff, that you've got some people that would be willing to do things after school in the evenings or on the weekends?
We have talked about that, and that will be, I'm sure once we get into the summer and we start realizing when kids are starting high school sports or going back to college or what have you, we have discussed the idea of trying to stretch the summer out a little bit longer if at all possible.
Okay.
And if we have the staff, we will, absolutely.
Any activity on the new security cameras in Roban Park? It's 2 or 3 months in. What's the effect? Can you tell?
It's been very, very positive. I've only had to use it one time, and that was when we were taking Christmas decorations down from all of the lights were there, and one of my staff members was convinced that one of our blow-up had been stolen. Well, it was that staff member's son who actually took it off the softball diamond, so we found the culprit, and he was a part-time employee. But so far, I think it's doing exactly what I had hoped it would do.
What's the latest on doing something similar with lighting and security at Big Walnut Sports Park?
We'll be having I think we discussed a Zoom meeting with the gentleman, a DePaul grad, who's putting together a program for Big Walnut Sports Park with regard to lighting. And then once we have the lighting, then we will turn our attention to putting cameras out there as well.
Thank you for all that work.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
Any other questions for any other department heads? Hearing none, department heads are released for the evening. Next is reports. I'm going to keep mine real quick. Believe it or not, we had another water line break on our Alvin Pond water line, so our folks took good care of that the other evening. They are starting to get things organized out there. They haven't started to dig yet, but that'll be forthcoming. At your table, I've included an invitation to the March 22nd community update for the US 231 project. NDOT issued a press release on that yesterday, so it's probably waiting in Eric's inbox for publication. Locust Street work will probably get started this coming week. They put the barricades up so people could get used to the detour. It's been kind of interesting how people have been handling that. If you've been out to the YMCA site, they are pushing dirt, stripping topsoil, and things going there. We're working towards the ceremonial groundbreaking mid-April, tentatively on or about April 20th. We will expect to hear back on our community crossings application in early April. On the stormwater utility, we have a contract that's been signed with Christopher Burke Engineering to help us update the information that was in the earlier plan, take out the projects that have been completed, updating budgets and the billing mechanism. So I'll probably be asking council for a couple of volunteers to serve on a committee for a couple months while we do that. There'll be a couple of public meetings as part of that process to explain the rate structure. So they're already getting their background work underway on that. And then lastly, for the parks, we have finally received our land and water conservation grant paperwork from the state, and we're getting the engineering contract signed so we can move forward with that with a hopeful implementation later this fall after the major activities are done in the park. So that's in the works.
Bill, I'd like to ask about the YMCA. I talked with Ryan Penrod this afternoon, and he said the contract is finalized but not signed. I would hope that that would be signed before groundbreaking. And where do we stand with the contract with Putnam County Hospital?
It's in the same situation. Lori's been working on any little minor tweaks that have come about, and I believe everything's ready for signature. So. Okay. Be nice to have those done and signed before the groundbreaking. Everybody was reviewing just the 99.9% language just to make sure everything was fine. So.
What are they doing with all this middle of the street stuff on Washington Street? All the
you got that little construction.
Trucks have been in the middle of the street.
Oh, right out here?
Right out here.
Reese Riley has been cameraing our sanitary sewer to check for any issues prior to construction. And out here, they found a gas main that somebody had bored through our sewer, and then another issue, so those repairs were made. The gas company was out here one day, and some additional repairs have been made. So. Okay, Linda?
The only thing I have is I sent you guys all the annual report. So that is the document that's been sent to the state. That was how we ended the year on what we had. That's what will be audited here in a couple of years. So I just basically will make note on the agenda that you guys did receive that. So that's about it.
Anything noteworthy in those dozens and dozens of pages?
No.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting. One area you might take a look at is if you look at our capital assets back there, I think you'll be amazed on what our actually future liability will be on the road construction of, we have like 14, or we should have collected like $9 million would be what we've depreciated over the last so many years that we should have setting in the bank someday to do future road work on those repairs, which we don't have, but it's just kind of interesting to maybe take a look at the capital assets and see how much we should be depreciating those assets every year and for future repairs, so.
Thank you.
Welcome, Russell, as our new member of council, and look forward to working with you through the rest of the year.
Yeah, thank you.
Did you both pass?
I
Okay. Welcome, Russ. All right, it's good to have you. Just a couple quick things. In addition to Greg's update about the park, basketball is winding down. We had 131 participants. They'll go through mid-March. They weren't snowed out. It was a smooth season, and everybody was real happy with the way that our participants and coaches and kids and families all work together, so it was good. April 8th, they tell me, at 10 a.m. is the Easter egg hunt. Ready, set, go. Boom, they go. There is no rain date, is what I learned at the park board meeting. So what I was told, if there is bad weather, they will perhaps delay it or, look into that. But at this point, April 8th, 10 a.m. For the Easter egg hunt.
That's the day before Easter, so if you
Yeah.
can't do it that morning, that's...
Do it at like 5 o'clock instead, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's all I have.
I don't have a report, though. I have a question for the mayor. Did we move next month's council meeting?
Well, I was going to bring that up after everybody did their report. It sounded like the consensus was to move last month, but just wanted to confirm that.
Yep, okay, great.
In the spirit of efficiency, I pass.
The only thing is a reminder for the public on the Shamrock 5K run at 10 o'clock this coming Saturday morning at Almost Home, and the funds raised will help support the Greencastle Music Fest.
And if anybody's willing to serve as a crossing guard, I think they could probably use a couple extra volunteers. So.
Just dress warmly.
Crisp, but dry.
And then just to confirm, does everybody want to move next month's meeting to the following week, on the following Thursday, because of some conflicts?
April 20th would be the date.
Okay,
So
go ahead.
what would the date be?
April 20th, Thursday, a week later.
It sounded like the consensus was last month that was the direction everybody wanted to head, so if that's the case and confirmed, we'll work to make those arrangements.
It's okay here.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, next item of business is approval of minutes, and that would be for the regular session of February 9th. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any abstentions, or,
We can have Russell abstain.
yeah, we'll have you abstain. Okay, next is approval of city claims. I think Dave was probably up today to check them out.
Yep. We had payroll of $525,531.94, pensions $18,508.98. On direct payables, we had a total of $184,456.32. The notable expenditures, $32,138.30 on the fire truck loan. Civil engineering, Align Civil Engineering, had 6 invoices totaling $61,161.10. We had the usual Republic Services for our trash and recycling at $41,864.50. We paid off 2 police vehicles early with a check to First Financial Bank of $12,726.36. And we had Duke, some monthly things, some work on some of the stoplights downtown, a variety of things, totaling $18,125.71. When it comes to the Common Council claims totaling $296,110.06. We had 5 more invoices from civil engineering totaling $14,779 and 66 cents. Body cameras for the police department at $39,833.12. As is usual each year, we bought a bunch of salt early for next winter at $40,297.38. We gave Co-Alliance a check for $91.04 for city fuel. We paid our $55,000 contribution to the Putnam County Development Center, and the cemetery bought 2 mowers at a cost of $21,438. Midwestern Electric upgrade the signal at Indiana and First Street. Milestone Contractors, a big number, $57,869.07. This is a bunch of milling and asphalt kind of work that they've been doing.
Actually closed out last year's street contract.
Okay, and the other big expenditure was for the park, splash pad update, replacing various pieces of equipment that support that operation. And with those comments, I'll ask that we approve the claims as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims as presented. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is new business. Our first item of new business is resolution.
Cody?
Council.
I'm sorry. Old business yet. Council appointment to the redevelopment commission. So we have one vacancy left, and it's one of our boards that has to be a mix of political parties, and we need a Republican, and I think we have a candidate among us.
I move we appoint Stacy Langdon.
I'll second that. Oh, you second it. Go ahead. Good choice.
I may not have been the
Any
one that's
further-
supposed to do that, but
Any further questions or discussion? All those in favor to appoint Stacy, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sorry about that. Next is new business,
it just went right
is
off.
resolution number 2023-2, a resolution reaffirming resolution 2023-1 and declaring an economic revitalization area and recommended tax deduction for Heartland Automotive. This is for new equipment. So whereas the laws of the state of Indiana, specifically IC 6-1.1-12.1-1, provide for the creation of economic revitalization areas within the corporate limits of the city of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, for the general purpose of providing property tax deductions to encourage private redevelopment of areas that have become undesirable for, impossible of, normal development occupancy because of lack of development, cessation of growth, deterioration of improvements, or character of occupancy, age, obsolescence, substandard buildings, or other factors which have impaired values or prevent normal development of property and use of property. And whereas the term economic revitalization area also includes any area where a facility or group of facilities that are technologically, economically, or energy obsolete are located and where obsolescence may lead to a decline in employment and tax revenue. And whereas redevelopment means the construction of new structures and economic revitalizations areas either on unimproved real estate or real estate upon which prior existing structure is demolished to allow for new construction. And whereas rehabilitation means the remodeling, repair, or betterment of property in any manner or any enlargement or extension of property. And whereas pursuant to applicable laws of the state of Indiana, the Greencastle Common Council may create said economic revitalization area through the adoption of a resolution, and whereas the need exists to establish an economic revitalization area in order to encourage private redevelopment in the city of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, whereas Heartland Automotive proposes redevelopment and rehabilitation of the existing Heartland facility by investing up to $4.06 million in new manufacturing equipment at their facility, Heartland Automotive seeks a tax deduction pursuant to IC 6-1.1-12.1 et al. For a sequence, and whereas a statement of benefits form, statement of benefits on State Form 51764, said form approved by the State Board of Tax Commissioners, has been submitted to the Common Council on February 9th, 2023, prior to the installation of new manufacturing equipment on such real estate by Heartland Automotive, and such statement of benefits is attached here too and marked Exhibit A. Whereas the Greencastle Common Council passed Resolution 2023-01 on February 9th, 2023, and advertised a public hearing for March 9th, 2023, and whereas the Greencastle Common Council, pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana, does now hereby find that, 1, the estimate of the value of new manufacturing equipment is reasonable for projects of that nature. 2, the estimate of the number of individuals who will be employed or whose employment will be retained can be reasonably expected to result from the proposed installation of new manufacturing equipment. 3, the estimate of the annual salaries of those individuals who will be employed or whose employment will be retained can reasonably be expected to result from the proposed installation of new manufacturing equipment. 4, that any other benefits about which information was requested are benefits that can be reasonably expected to result from the installation of new manufacturing equipment. The totality of the benefits is sufficient to justify a deduction. Therefore, based on these findings, be it resolved that the City of Greencastle on this 9th day of March 2023, pursuant to IC 6-1.1-12.1-1, deems there to be a need to establish an economic revitalization area. That said economic revitalization area shall be defined as follows. In the resolution includes a legal description of the Heartland Automotive site, also commonly known as 300 South Warren Drive. Therefore, the Greencastle Common Council does recommend a deduction of assessed value for a period of 10 years as a result of the installation of new manufacturing equipment as set forth in IC 6-1.1-12.1-4.5. The following abatement schedule applies to the eligible personal property that are part of the expansion project outlined in this resolution. Following is the abatement schedule starting at year 1 at 100%, to year 10 at 10%, and year 11 at 0, declining by 10% per year. City of Greencastle does not recommend tax abatement for special tooling, nor does Heartland Automotive request such abatement. The Greencastle Common Council further recommends and approves the application of this deduction herein for improvements in equipment installed pursuant to the statement of benefits from the approval of this resolution and during the 15 months ensuing April 15th, 2023 through July 15th, 2025. Passed and resolved by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle as regular meeting this 9th day of March, 2023.
Not February.
Make that adjustment.
Thank you.
With proper signature lines.
And that was a real exciting part of our job.
So, Kristen will be happy to answer any last questions.
I move to approve resolution number 2023-2, a resolution reaffirming resolution 2023-1 and declaring an economic revitalization area and recommended tax deduction for Heartland Automotive.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
Aye.
And we've got the signature page coming around.
I'll get with you later.
I'm not going to send this around until we get the others.
Yeah, since he's not here, can you send me the SB one? Yeah, okay. Super. All right. I'll look up
Thank you,
later.
Kristen. Thank you, Ritsuko. Okay, next on the agenda is the Redevelopment Commission Annual Report. We're a month ahead because the deadline for Linda to report some of this information on Gateway is April 15th, so we're bringing it to you a little bit early, and we'll be happy to answer any questions about that. Everything balances to the penny, so if anybody has any questions.
I haven't read it, but I trust our clerk treasurer and her staff, and so I will make a motion that we approve that report.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the annual report for calendar year 2022 of the Greencastle Redevelopment Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
It's in your packet.
Yep, I got it.
Next on the agenda is a letter from Asina, and they have asked if we could show in our minutes that we would transfer the existing tax abatement on their property. They have sold their property and doing a sale leaseback, and normally by statute the abatement would transfer, but they've asked that we take formal action on that and recognize it in our minutes for clarity. So we've had this come up a few times in the past where property is transferred or the company has changed and the abatement is eligible and typically would transfer by statute, and they've indicated that they will continue to agree to the employment goals and investment goals that were originally established.
I move to approve.
Have a formal resolution or?
No, it will just show it in our minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second Darrell's motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Asina's letter of request to transfer their abatement to the new owner. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, next is ordinance 2023-1, first reading, an ordinance to establish an economic development target area for the proposed Woodshire Place apartment project. This is kind of a first pass at this for the city. Statute requires the establishment of an economic development target area by ordinance. This is a little different process than what we follow for our industrial folks, where we can do it for a resolution. And if the ordinance is approved tonight, it will come back in April for second reading, and then accompanying that will be a resolution that will actually grant the abatement. So what the resolution or what the ordinance focuses on tonight is the geographic area and the designation as an economic development target area. So to read the ordinance on first reading, whereas IC 6-1.1-12.1-7 provides the procedure for establishing an economic development target area, whereas Woodshire Place LLC submitted an application to the City of Greencastle requesting the establishment of an economic development target area, whereas said application was presented to the Greencastle Economic Development Commission for consideration on February 22nd, 2023, whereas after reviewing the application, hearing from the applicant, and due consideration, the Greencastle Economic Development Commission voted 4-0 to make a recommendation to the Greencastle Common Council to establish an economic development target area. Make that change. Now, therefore, be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle, Indiana, 1, that the Common Council, based on the recommendation of the Economic Development Commission, finds that it would be in the best interest of the citizens of the City of Greencastle if a certain area were defined and declared within such city as an economic development target area, that this Common Council hereby declares by description the boundaries of the area to be declared herein to be an economic development target area as follows. And what follows is two separate legal descriptions. Their site of 3.05 acres off of Southwood Village, and then an additional legal description of about a third of an acre that provides access for a driveway to South Street. 3, that the above described real estate is deemed by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle to be an economic development target area within the corporate limits of the City of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, which has become undesirable for normal development occupancy because of lack of development, cessation of growth, deterioration of improvements, or character of occupancy, age, obsolescence, substandard buildings, or other factors that impaired values or prevent a normal development of the property or use of the property. That in order to be competitive in attracting new investment to the City of Greencastle, Indiana, it is imperative that the city offer to persons investing in the above described area up to the maximum tax abatement allowed by law. 5, that the Common Council now ordains that the above designated area shall be declared an economic development target area under the terms and provisions of IC 6-1.1-12.1-7, that the above designated area consists of 3.41 acres, which is below the statutory maximum of 15% of the area of the city, or approximately 504 acres, that this ordinance shall be published pursuant to provisions of IC 5-3-1, and a copy of this ordinance shall be provided to the Putnam County Assessor's Office for inspection therein, that after due publication, a public hearing shall be held at the time set forth in the public notice, notifying of the consideration of this ordinance, at which time the Common Council shall receive and hear all remonstrances and objections, determine whether or not the qualifications for an economic development target area have been met, and take final action on this ordinance. That the economic development target area shall expire on December 31st, 2025, or upon the completion of any real estate tax abatement schedule that has been granted by the Common Council, whichever date is earlier. That the economic development target area shall be named EDTA Woodshire Place 2023-1 when needed to be referred to in all documents related to the area. That this ordinance shall take effect upon passage by the Common Council, approved by the mayor, passed and ordained by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle at its regular meeting this blank day of blank 2023 with appropriate signature lines. Lori has reviewed this and found it to be okay, and both of us missed the typo on the 4th paragraph in the first page, which we will correct to change that from Economic Development Commission to Economic Development Target Area. So, and we have a representative of Woodshire Place to say a few words about the project and answer any questions. So.
Can I ask a question before we get started?
Sure.
Have we talked about this property before?
Yes. Well,
not necessarily the development, but the property. Didn't we do something? Didn't we have a meeting?
Yeah, we did have an executive
tax
session.
abatement or something on by somebody else.
Yeah,
but
and it did come before the Economic Development Commission prior to this meeting.
Okay.
And I think they also, did you guys have to come?
Didn't we talk about
zoning
for
or
the property?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an executive session on it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure we were all on. I was on the same page.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Yeah, my name is Adam D'Angelo. I'm one of the members and owners of Woodshire Place Apartments. My business partners, Ed Curtin, Joy Skidmore, are here this evening as well. And I think Joy had passed out a packet which describes the project, but also really the kind of the crux of why we're here is to approve the resolution that is deemed to be a approved Economic Development Commission area, Economic Development Commission area. So, and just to highlight the overall need for housing here in the community. So I'll ask you guys to turn to the second page of the deck that you have in front of you, the location map of the project. I think everybody by this point has probably heard about this project numerous times, right? So I'll try to be as brief as I can, but I think, again, it's important to highlight what the project is projected to look like and hopefully the quality of the housing that we want to provide to the community. So, but the project is, just as that mayor highlighted, a little over 3 acres, stretching from off of 231 and South Street, kind of sandwiched in between Woodshire Place residential neighborhood, which adjoins us. To the east and to the west, we have commercial properties from Feld's Carpet all the way down to the hotel, motel, that stretches down to the other end of the parcel. So I think everybody's familiar with where this is located, but with that, I'll have you move forward to the revised site plan. We're projecting to build 13 triplex buildings with 2-bedroom, 2.5-bath townhouses, each being approximately 1,200 square feet, and having amenities there on site with a dog park and a grill station. I think one of the things that we want to highlight this evening too is that we were fortunate enough to reach an agreement with a property adjoiner in Mr. Poor, and we were happy to announce that he is accepting our offer to obtain an easement from him in order for us to put a entrance off of South Street. And again, I think important to highlight, we really wanted to demonstrate that we were listening to the community, listening to leadership as we got feedback, as we went through the process, that pushing as much of the traffic away from our residential neighborhood adjoiner as possible. And so we were able to achieve that, which we're very excited about, and hopefully being able to alleviate that second entrance. Now, that's still subject to TAC review as we go forward in this process of final design and approval. But that is what we are projecting to obtain, is putting this second entrance, or first entrance and only entrance, off of South, diverting traffic over to South. Have you turn to the next page? What we're going to build, we feel like, is a high-quality product, commensurate to, I think, what you see over at Zinc Mill. I think they've done a fantastic job, and there are a few other communities here that have done a really good job in building quality market-rate apartments, but wrapping the buildings themselves in hardy plank siding, putting some wood shakes into the gables, and just giving a nice neighborhood feel, but also that it's not a detractor from our neighbors to the east, as I mentioned, in the neighborhood adjoining. So hopefully it is an enhancement, not, as I said, not a detractor. But you can see somewhat, this is kind of hard to read, but you can see the floor plans here as they lay out. They really are going to be built with 2-hour firewalls in between, really almost as a single-family dwelling for each dweller. Have you move forward 2 pages. And really the crux of why we're here is the tax abatement summary on a 10-year sliding scale. You can see that our construction costs are projected to be about $177,000 a unit, nearly $7 million in total, projected to increase the current taxes that are paid on the property from $500 to $55,000. So that is a significant win. As we look at this request, it is a sliding scale stretching from 100% to 0% over that 10-year time period. Just a little over $305,000 in the total abatement request. I think it's important to highlight, and I touch on this in the last slide, that it will still be a contributing asset and still contribute over $245,000 in property taxes over that same time frame. And again, just highlighting that this is a eligible economic development target area, given state statute that's highlighted here. With that, I'll have you guys move forward. This is the fun part. For us, as builders, as developers, one of the things I enjoy most is really connecting with the communities and identifying what their needs are. And one of the things that you guys have here, I think, is you have a wonderful community. You have excellent leadership. They've been very thorough in vetting our project and the process over the last year, as we've worked very closely with many people here in the city. But one of the things we've really found is there is a significant demand for quality market rate housing. I think it's been highlighted by your county leader, the mayor, and several other people in leadership here, but also employers in the community. Specifically, the college has noted that there's not anywhere for staff or administration to live. And so therefore you have people driving 20, 30, 45 minutes from another community into your community. And it's important that if we're providing additional 39 units that hopefully those people will choose to reside within the community and hopefully eventually go to seek home ownership. But we not only noted that in our third-party market study, there's over 395 units that are needed here. It's a big number compared relative to the size of the community, right? But it's not just in the study. I mean, we actually went and did some secret shopping and went around to all the different communities, and 9 out of the 11 have waiting lists, 99% occupancy rate. There's just nowhere for people to go. I mean, it's a good problem to have, but at the same time, there's just nowhere for people to go. So showing the highlight and need for more housing. By bringing in these units, it's important to note that we have additional disposable income from those households that will reside in those units of additional $626,000 that generally is spent within a mile to mile and a half of your residence, right? Disposable income being after your debt service or your service to the household is met, and that discretionary being about 30% of your total household income. This will also contribute another additional $39,000 in edit tax to the community. We think we're projecting about another $6,000 a year in annual water and sewer bill to the community. And this is one we still need to have confirmation on with the city utilities, or the tap fees, the additional income and revenue associated with our permitting and tap fees. Roughly about $60,000 is what we project. And as I highlighted before, the additional tax revenue over that 10-year period being the abatement period being $249,000 addresses significant housing needs that are here in the community. I think I've said this already, but I emphasize that it's not a want, or this request is not necessarily a want, it's a need. Over the last year and a half, we've seen continued upward pressure on construction costs, not only from a labor perspective, but also on the material side, and it's just not going down. The only thing we have seen go down is lumber, but we've continued to see other supply chain lines get continually impacted and delayed, causing further increases in rate hikes. The other piece of that, which really is our largest operating expense and line item, is interest rates. And I think we've all felt that. And the pressure that has put on us is the same. The interest rates doubling over the last year certainly creates a crunch from a cash flow perspective and being able to operate the project effectively or even at all. So crucial that you guys are hearing us for this particular request. So we're very grateful. Thank you.
I was able to attend the February 2nd Economic Development Commission meeting and heard some good questions asked. So I've heard your presentation twice now.
Yeah.
I am delighted to see that body unanimously and enthusiastically voted to support this tax abatement, and I recognize the demand for housing in our community. I realize that from your perspective, you say that's a great problem to have.
Right.
It's a challenge for our community that we need to resolve.
Right.
And if this can help us resolve it, I am all on board.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
And I'll kind of add on top of that, this is a novel policy change that we're going to be engaging in by approving a tax abatement for a residential area. So it just goes to show that we're pulling out all the stops to bring housing to Greencastle.
You really are,
So
yeah.
Thank you for your work on this. Thank you for adding that second egress.
Yeah.
I very much appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, grateful for hearing us out this evening. Any other additional questions?
I have a question on the quality of both of those road entrances. Will they be standard like any city street?
Theirs would be a private drive, so the city will not be maintaining it. It will be built to our driveway standards.
Both entrances will be their responsibility?
their current proposal is just to have an entrance on South Street. And one of the things we're going to discuss with the fire department, would they like to have an emergency entrance through Southwood? And there's a couple ways that could be done, including like a grass pavement. For example, at Round Barn Manor, we've got a little, unless you knew where it was, you wouldn't even know it's there. We've got an emergency lane between a couple condos and the backside of Round Barn. It's like a grass paver. So it's not open to regular traffic, but if we had to get a fire truck back through there or some other emergency vehicle, we'd be able to drive through there. That discussion hasn't taken place yet because they've just wrapped up their agreements or their negotiation with Mr. Poor. So they'll have to come back with tech review, and our fire chief will have some input on whether or not we need an emergency access, and if we do, what the best way to do that will be.
I agree with everything Veronica and Cody has sent, but Kristen, can you join us up front? This is our only request tonight, and I'm trying to get some feel for the qualitative differences. You're projecting annual income of $61,050. The other proposal that we have will be comparing Indian Springs apartments, which already exist, annual adult income at $52,000. The proposal that we're going to consider next is income of $42,000. And what is it about the differences in these three properties that leads to a significant difference in annual incomes for the inhabitants, for the residents? Do we have any feel for that?
I can answer that. It's the class of the property. They're building a Class A property that's going to attract a higher wage. We are renovating maybe a Class D property that we are, trying to bring up into that C+, B- grade. So that, Mr. Murray, is where you'll get that different salary range.
Yeah, thank you.
And as many have noted, we need more housing at every price point. And so I appreciate that you're proposing your proposal, you're proposing your proposal, and that your work is targeted to different audiences, different renters at a different price point. And we need housing at both of those levels.
I think Dave also, Jared, didn't you say at the economic development meeting that you had a number of retired people in your project already as well?
Yes.
And so there's an income difference there also.
Well, and we'll get to it in his presentation, but he's got under an 18-month contract to keep rent stabilized as they currently are, whereas they can be much more flexible. And you're exactly right; they are kind of catering to or presenting to a little bit different type of population. As one of their main people that main employers that they've spoken to is DePaul University, and DePauw's on board. And because of that, we know that there's a differentiation between salaries that are paid, and they're one of our best employers from a salary standpoint. Now, we've got wonderful employers at all different levels, but because of that, and like Jared said, it's a brand new build, so that's going to be a huge portion of it as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. But you're right, everybody, we need housing. All of our employers need housing, and we want to keep them local, and we want them to spend their money local and their disposable income local. So, like you said, it might be a new policy, and it's not necessarily a precedent because each one is unique and individualized, and so you guys can decide on a case-by-case basis. But at this point, we feel like this is very beneficial, and just we've never had it asked before, so we've never warranted and passed it before, but with prices the way they are, supply chain the way it is, we've really got to loosen that up, and so we've got two great proposals tonight.
We desperately need the housing. Totally in agreement. Just want to be sure we all understand we're setting a real precedent here, because every other builder going forward from today, they're going to be in here asking for a tax abatement. Whether we think it's justified or not, I don't think we have any criteria to distinguish one request from another going into this. But with those reservations and with those questions and concerns, I'll make a motion that we pass ordinance 2023-1, an ordinance establishing an economic development target area for the proposed Woodshire Place apartment project.
I'll second.
And again, this is just first reading, so you'll see all this again next month. So we have a motion and a second. Are there any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your approval for first reading by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
Thank you.
One side comment, this is more for the public's understanding, is every young person who comes into this new housing benefits our school corporation at $5,000 or more per student. I mean, it's not just about our revenues in the city, it has a ripple effect across the community.
That's a good point. Thank you.
I think, was a statement made, the expectation there might be like 10 to 12 children across the apartments? Somebody...
Yeah, usually, average household 2.5. I think that was a number that we had thought would be kind of averaged out.
I mean, it's not guaranteed, but if there would be 10 children, yeah, you're right, to be somewhere 60 to 70,000 in revenue to the schools if they were new to our community.
Yeah, another benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item of business is a similar situation, ordinance 2023-2, an ordinance establishing an economic development target area for the Indian Springs North apartment project, and I'll be happy to read this. It's basically exactly the same language. Whereas IC 6-1.1-12.1-7 provides the procedure for establishing an economic development target area, whereas Indian Springs North LLC submitted an application to the City of Greencastle requesting the establishment of an economic development target area, whereas said application was presented to the Greencastle Economic Development Commission for consideration on February 22nd, 2023, whereas after reviewing the application, hearing from the applicant, and due consideration, the Greencastle Economic Development Commission voted 4-0 to make a recommendation to the Common Council to establish an economic development target area. We'll make that correction with that. Now therefore be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle, Indiana, that, one, the Common Council, based on the recommendation of the Economic Development Commission, finds that it would be in the best interest of the citizens of Greencastle if a certain area were defined and declared within such city as an economic development target area. Two, that this Common Council hereby declares by description the boundaries of the area to be declared herein to be an economic development target area as follows. And this is a legal description of the Indian Springs, that those are the apartments that kind of sit off of Houck Road that were owned by the Putnam County Housing Authority. And it's a site of 1.84 acres. That the above described real estate is deemed by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle to be an economic development target area within the corporate limits of the City of Greencastle, Putnam County, Indiana, which has become undesirable for normal development and occupancy because of lack of development, cessation of growth, deterioration of improvements or character of occupancy, age, obsolescence, substandard buildings, or other factors that have impaired values or prevent a normal development of property or use of property. That in order to be competitive in attracting new investment to the City of Greencastle, Indiana, it's imperative that the city offer to persons investing in the above described area up to the maximum tax abatement as allowed by law. That the Common Council now ordains that the above designated area shall be declared an economic development target area under the terms and provisions of IC 6-1.1-12.1-7. That the above designated area consists of 1.84 acres, which is below the statutory maximum of 15% of the area of the city, or approximately 504 acres. That this ordinance shall be published pursuant to the provisions IC 5-3-1, and a copy of this ordinance shall be provided to the Putnam County Assessor's Office for inspection therein. That after due publication A public hearing shall be held at such time set forth in the public notice notifying of the consideration of this ordinance, at which time this common council shall receive and hear all remonstrances and objections, determine whether or not the qualifications for an economic development target area have been met, and take final action upon this ordinance. The economic development target area shall expire on December 31st, 2025, or upon the completion of any real estate tax abatement schedule that has been granted by the Common Council, whichever date is earlier. The economic development target area shall be named EDTA Indian Springs 2023-2 when needed to be referred to in all documents related to the area. This ordinance shall take effect upon passage by the Common Council and approval by the mayor, passed and ordained by the Common Council of the City of Greencastle at its regular meeting this blank day of blank 2023 with proper signature lines. And again, this is similar situation. Jared Grable is the developer. Again, you'll see this next month for second reading of this ordinance, and then a resolution that will actually grant the abatement, and will hold a public hearing as well at the next meeting. So, Jared?
Thank you, Mayor. I would say that my project is quite a bit different than the one that you just heard. As the mayor stated, our project was built about 40 years ago. It's project-based housing. So for the last 40 years, there's a HAP agreement that falls into place. That HAP agreement, it dictates what we can receive as far as rent, what the state will pay, what the tenant pays. We are under a HAP agreement for the next 18 months. And at that point, we'll try to figure out if we want to remain as a HAP contractor, if we want to take this thing to a private pay. But needless to say, Putnam County Housing Authority approached us in late 2021 wanting to sell the property. For the last 5 years, they've struggled to maintain the property, both on tenants, both on income, and to keep it to that standard. So as we fought with HUD to get approved to purchase this property, the one thing that they made us do at the very end of that was do a PCNA financial conclusion. And what that PCNA is, a project capital needs assessment. So they sent a HUD inspector in. That HUD inspector deemed that critical repairs, which are things that need to be replaced just to maintain this place as habitable, was $140,650, which they gave us 90 days to do the work. And these are things from, anything that's going to come under critical repair is typically a safety where doors aren't secured, missing smoke detectors, trip hazards, things like that. Right now, the property is under a 42% occupancy. When we bought it, people started moving out. So I've done property management for a lot of years. So they kind of knew, I think, what was coming, and that we want to provide affordable housing at all areas. We have some of those A properties that we rent out, and then we've also got some other C properties that we maintain, and we've had that for over the last 20 years. At this point, we want to bring the standard of this complex up. We want to bring it back as we did with Indian Springs. Indian Springs we purchased in 2017. It was a property that went through foreclosure. Unfortunately, this tax abatement plan was not available at that time, or any grant money or anything else. So we took that on. There were 7 buildings, 13 units, and so we completely renovated it. Of which, whenever you read through our proposal there, our average annual income on our tenant that's in Indian Springs right now, $52,684 a year is what they average. We have a 3-year lease retention rate across the board at 91%. And we feel that where we need to get these 25 units with Northview, and we're going to do things where we need to make them efficient. I mean, they're baseboard heat. Some of them have window air units, some of them don't. We've got some retired teachers. We've got elderly. So we just want to make a better, more efficient, nicer place for people to live. We have no intentions of just throwing everybody out. So that's not what we want to do. But what we want to do is we want to eliminate problems and we want to bring in better tenants. And what we're projecting right now is that we're looking at an anticipated salary in this when we're done, at that being right around the $42,000 a year. And we don't see any issue at all with getting our occupancy rate from that, low 40s, up there with the rest of our properties to where we're going to be, 95, 96%. Does anybody have any questions?
I appreciated your earlier comment about the comparison of the different units. What is it quantitatively or qualitatively between Indian Springs and this new project you've got going? What's the difference in the facilities that leads to a $10,000 salary differential? I'm just curious.
A lot of it's going to be square footage of unit.
Okay.
So our two bedrooms in Indian Springs, and there's some different floor plans in there, but they're probably averaging 850 to about 900 square feet. Our two bedrooms that are in the Northview apartments right now, they're about a 750, 760 square foot. So it's just it's that square footage. Am I in trouble? You're creeping up on me like I'm getting jerked off stage.
No, just if there's any other questions.
Thank you. But a lot of it is that square footage. Also, too, at Indian Springs, everything is a ground level entrance to where over at the Northview Apartments, there's 8,
I think you're
10.
reversing the names of the two developments, because you're talking about Northview is the current one that's already occupied, right?
Well, so there's Indian Springs that we own. And then there's Indian Springs North, which is the entity.
Indian Springs, okay.
And I can clear all that up, but Indian Springs North is the entity that owns the Northview Apartments.
Okay.
And so our goal is that, once everything is done, is it'll be one name, it'll be one community. Right now it is separated by a rundown, dilapidated wooden fence. 40 years ago, this was all one property. As some of you probably remember, Dr. Johnson had their, I think Dr. Macy or Haggerty was in there as well at one time.
Across the street.
Yes, you did. And so, our goal is to make this one campus again. So we would, at that point in time, there's going to be 38 units. And so we would have, you'd be able to enter this property both off of Arlington and then off of Houck Road, things like that. So,
Jared, I did drive through the area earlier this week, and it helps to see it and see it as a campus, because it does feel like it all
Hodgepodge.
It all belongs together. Well, it is a unruly collection but it is all together. It is all in one place. Man, those chuck holes in the parking lot, though, they were quite a slalom course.
It's on our critical repairs.
It's very critical, I'll just say. As had been already mentioned here, you're under a commitment to keep this rent stabilized for 18 more months.
Yes.
Are you hoping to retain current tenants if they want to stay in without jacking up the rates to a place where you're pricing current tenants out? That's what I'm concerned about.
Yes. Yes, so there are some programs that involve us doing some different market studies and some different things to where, whether it stays on that HAP project or we bring in like we accept Section 8 vouchers now. The Section 8 vouchers are completely different than where that HAP contract, where they dictate things. So there's all kinds of options. But to answer that question, My goal is for the tenants that we have that are, and there's several that are in there right now that are great tenants that have been there for years, we want to keep them.
Okay.
It was just getting rid of the handful of bad apples, and we're just about all of them are about gone.
Okay.
And I just want to add one more thing to both these projects. The first one is a brand new build, so a little bit different. So first one, brand new build, no assessed value other than the land, so it's going to be a difference. This one, there's already build to it. Now, it's owned by the Housing Authority, but per Indiana code, with the Department of Local Government Finance, you can, even though it has not had taxes paid on it, there's been an assessed value attached to it. So we have to maintain that assessed value. But there's a calculation, and they take into consideration the occupancy rate, the grade, and then whatever they put into it. So we will be working with the assessor's office to ensure that there's still a base value there that's been assessed, but not paid taxes on, but still assessed, and then whatever growth and whatever additional assessed value that the assessor's office, that is what he will be requesting abatement on.
And for the last 40 years, since it's been owned by a non-for-profit, there's not been any taxes that have been paid.
I just want to thank you for your ongoing commitment to Greencastle in a variety of ways.
Well, thank you. Well, I like working here.
Other questions?
With that being said, I'll move to approve ordinance 2023-2.
I'll second.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to
Pass first.
approve ordinance 2023-2 on second reading, or first reading. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Okay. And again, both the projects will be back next month. Last item of agenda is, I asked that this be put on, it's a little early, but maybe not too much, is the city council agenda. So, Stacy, I think you kind of ran with that last year, so I'll turn
Every
the
year,
floor
we
over.
give a scholarship to a Greencastle student, and someone at the school decides who wins the scholarship, so it's not that we're directly involved with choosing the winner, but we've done this for years, and hopefully each city council person will make a donation to the scholarship. I know the mayor normally makes a donation, and then whatever the amount is, it's usually around $2,000, I believe, total, is awarded to a Greencastle senior. I don't have the criteria in front of me. I can bring it for the next meeting, but there are certain, when people apply, certain things that they look for when they decide who is going to be the recipient. So it's that time again. And what we do is you write out a check and you take it to the Putnam County Community Foundation. So we don't bring it here. We take it directly, or we mail it directly over there. And I think we can even do it online.
We can pay online, yeah. Just make sure when you select it on the development,
The drop down.
there are many scholarships. Make sure it's the Rokiki City Council Scholarship, because there are many other Rokiki things on the drop-down.
I saw it was on the agenda. I dropped my check off yesterday. They've already cashed it, so they're ready.
Want to make sure that city council check didn't bounce on you.
There you go. For those that aren't familiar with Mike Rokiki, he was a tireless volunteer, umpired baseball games, did so many things in the community, and that's why this recognition continues.
Dave, do you remember, or Stacy, remember how long this has been going on? I mean,
For a long time.
it's been quite a number of years that council has supported this, and also,
And at one point, Mike's wife, Phyllis, was on the council.
yeah. Okay, that concludes our business for the evening.
Can I say one more thing? It was great to welcome Russ, but I'd just like to publicly thank Adam Cohen for his, Linda, was it 16 years? We looked it up today, I believe. 16 years of service. And I personally, it was such a pleasure to serve with him, and he did a wonderful job for our community. Wonderful man. We wish him the very best going forward, and he will be missed. He really cared about Greencastle.
And when you look at Big Walnut Sports Park, think Adam Cohen. He was in step with that the entire way.
Russell, and happy to take you out to lunch soon.
I'll take it. He just took me to coffee. He didn't take me to lunch. but Wonderful man, and we were so fortunate to have him serve the city.
Yeah.
And he misses being here because he was so committed to the city in so many ways.
And if anybody wants to call him, just give him a holler, and his DePaul email is still active. I think his city email is still active. I don't think we've closed that yet. If you call him, just leave a message on his phone, and he'll call you back.
Is he in Cleveland? Cleveland, is that where he
Yeah,
is?
he's
No.
in a facility there to help him get well. So, okay, that concludes our business for the evening. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.